Hello and welcome to the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship live on the iRacing Esports Network and live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Daniel Lee with Scott Knutson on the cameras for this round 2 of season 12. And you can see for yourself, you're probably quite familiar with this place already after nearly 18 hours of driving already in the 24 hours of Le Mans. We are back again for this race, and Daniel, in some sense, you could maybe argue that this is slightly easier for these drivers. They would have put in hours upon hours of practice for today's event. However, this being a fixed setup series, they might be driving a car which is totally different to the one that they're driving in the 24. So it really does offer up a very unique challenge.
Yeah, it certainly does. First off, good evening to all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you on board, Sam, Scott. Thanks as always. But yeah, look, as you say, I mean, yes, in a sense, maybe a little bit easier in that they've done weeks and weeks of testing, setting up for the Le Mans 24-hour, which is currently still going on for the second split at the moment. But that being said, like I say, you've got setup changes, cars are different. The big factor, though, for these guys is going to be fatigue. I mean, for anyone that's run the second split, started in Australia around 11 p.m, still ongoing at this point in time. So there's going to be some very tired drivers out there. And on a circuit on paper looks very simple to get around. There's still some tricky complexes that these guys are going to have to negotiate tonight as well.
As always in this championship, fantastic participation. We've got a massive bumper field for you tonight. We'll soon go through it because the drivers are currently in their 15-minute practice session. There was a pre-qualifying for this event, and using the fantastic race management service software, they have loaded up a couple of different splits for today's event, and say these are the absolute best of those qualifying times. And as practice reaches the checker flag, the session will take over, and we will soon line up just before the Porsche curves. So, on pole position then for this round 2 of the championship is Michael Healy. Very good qualifying for a time for him there. James Scott, a driver we were very familiar with in the AOSC Supercars series. He's up there in second place. There's Martin Silvassi. Good time there for Silvassi. Usually a driver who struggles to get into the top 10, but that P3 is very strong. Then it's Aidan Luthwaite, Ross Rizzo, Craig Edwards, Josh Thomas, Adam Gardner, Nathan Huppert, and look at all these amateur drivers as well. Brady McHugh, Simon Nicholson, and Jordan Cullis rounding out the top 12. And then it is Trent Thomas, Martin Crisp, Jason Dixon, Tom Huggan, Kane Ryder, Darren Lobb, Matt Morris, Neil Pearson, Timothy Phoeben, Dave Clements, Steve Jansen, and Scott Stevens. Then it's Warren Pickering, Robert Hooper, Aaron Specchio, Julian Clean Busink, watch out for him from 28th on the grid, Matt Allison, Nick Sanfilippo, Blake Delaney, Adrian Lichty, Michael Skurlock, Scott Gamble, Paul Wood, Jesse Butler, Chris Pellett, Lockhart Brownlee, Nathan Anderson, Bradley Sanders, Justin Schwick, Mitchell Bales, John Poose, Lee Siddles, and Stephen Williams. It's the 45 cars. I believe Michael Skurlock might not be able to take the start because I think he's accidentally signed up as the wrong car. So, we don't want name and shame or anything, but Michael, dearie me. So we just approached the Porsche curves then. Really tricky start around this circuit. I'm sure anyone who's faced in the ILMS, Daniel, has kind of suffered it. However, we are going to go green at the Ford chicanes rather than the Porsche curves that many of these GT drivers would have got used to. Getting into single file with such a massive order like this can be very tricky through those tight, twisty corners.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably not a bad idea. It gets the field the ability to stretch out a little bit, settle themselves down. But the first run up into the Dunlop chicane there probably going to be really, really tricky. We've seen in real life competition many drivers have issues there. Hopefully tonight, as the field work their way through, we don't see any major incidents and they're able to set themselves up for the run down the Mulsanne for the first time. But it's going to be very tricky. And unfortunately for our current rider, well, starting the race from first, Michael Healy, he's going to be the tester out there tonight. Everyone's going to get in his draft. They're going to be able to utilise that. So he's going to have to be very, very cautious here on the getaway.
Definitely, the field will soon be under his control. The pace car comes in especially late now. I think iRacing changed it for this build, and so it won't come into the pits here. It will just hesitate between the two chicanes, and then the green flag will be waved, and Healy will be able to pull away from the order. At the moment, very good formation being kept by the drivers. Round 2 of Season 12 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship is away at Le Mans. And at the front, at least, they negotiate the Porsche chicanes very impressively. Healy having to hold off Scott at the moment. They're dead level going into turn 1 at the moment. 4 wide further back as well. I think Healy is going to lose out here, though, to Scott. He's going to have the inside for the chicane. Now, can Healy keep his car around the outside? No, he cannot. And it's still a Porsche in the lead, but it is James Scott, the AOSC Supercars champion, currently leading the way. Lots of lockups, and we got off as well for Jesse Butler further down the order, and a couple of drivers as well cutting the chicane. That will be a hefty slowdown straight away. But out in the lead, most drivers still in the draft. We've got a top 4 battle at the moment, and crucially Martin Silvassi just breaking the draft at the moment to Ross Rizzo.
Yeah, the 3 Trick Esports cars looking pretty comfortable at the moment up inside that top 5, but Michael Healy utilising that draft advantage from Scott. First run down the Mulsanne into the first chicane here. He's set up nicely. He should be able to get this one done. And just behind as well, you can see Silvassi trying to look at a move also on Aidan Litherwaite behind. So the Trick boys are starting to get their cars in order and move ahead as Healy able to sweep across the nose there, and he will regain the lead at this point in time.
And with that little bit of a change of position, it has bunched everyone back up again. The only big gap I'm seeing, well, maybe Thomas and Edwards, currently 0.8 of a second. That the draft is so important around this circuit, obviously, and if you can stay in the draft, then you can keep you up with the drive ahead, even if you are a few tenths of a second a lap slower. As there's going to be a change now, this is going to cost these guys even more times. It's Kane Ryder and Matt Morris, and Morris moving up into 15th place there. Oh, sorry, was that Ryder moving up into 15th place past Matt Morris? And in fact, Morris is going to lose out another place here to Dan Lobb, race winner from Montreal last season, and that all looks relatively comfortable for him as well. In terms of the drivers who have really lost out on this first lap, Delaney down about 12 places, Butler down 8. They seem to be the only drivers though who have had any significant spins.
Yeah, other than that, everyone else getting away quite nicely. The battling still continuing throughout the course of this feed, with just 2 Gardner, Edwards and Hupperts trying to form themselves out as they work their way down another long straight, heading up to Anaj this time. And now the teammates with Healy and Silvassi. Actually, looks like Healy got himself a slowdown penalty there, so he will fall probably back into 5th place at this point. He's let Litherwaite, Edwards already go through, so that's a very costly mistake early on.
Oh, so painful on the first lap. Healy's got to serve that one ASAP because it just gets worse and worse if you don't serve it straight away. And that is a very unusual mistake for the pole sitter, and any chance of the race win surely gone with that. Has he just cut the Mustang corner potentially? This was what happened to Adam Gardner, how he just made up her position a little while ago. Didn't look too bad there for Healy, I don't know, but well, got the penalty anyway.
Yeah, just enough to unsettle that, and as a result of what was potentially first place at that point, he has now dropped well down the order, down into 7th position at the moment. So it's going to be a pretty long, tall ask for him to work his way back up and try and get back up in with the front runners.
Already quite a big spread, I must say. You can see how the race leader is coming to the end of the push curve, as some of these midfield drivers are merely halfway through them. Still the first lap of the race. And this is Hooper currently behind Hagen and Stevens as well. Oh, Hooper with the slowdown, and that is something that certainly in my split back in the 24 wasn't too much of an issue, but we're already seeing in this sprint format. I'm sure anyone who's facing ILMS this week would have known quite how costly those slowdowns are in the first lap, and we're certainly seeing that come to prominence right now.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those. I mean, it's a track that, you know, if you do run that little bit wide with the use of the long straights that we do get to see here, is something that does penalise you very, very heavily. Not only is it the time bonus, it's a lot of forward momentum that you do seem to lose. So guys will work their way back up. Have no doubt about that. They will get back through. So we'll see that unfold further back. Healy still working his way through another slowdown, and the run through Tetra is very, very easy to accumulate those. So I think we'll see a lot more of those as the course of the race unfolds tonight as well.
And that was Joshua Thomas. A mistake from Thomas. Such a consistent driver, banging in those top fives recently, but that is a costly mistake for him. Meanwhile, Edwards moves up into 4th. He's got past McHugh. McHugh, an amateur driver. There's 4 different ratings in this series. We've got the purple, which are the elites, and then we've got the green, which is the pros, and then the amber is the amateurs, and then there's also red for rookie. However, I'm not sure. Oh, we got a couple of rookies actually. Lockhart Brownie has got a penalty, by the way, because he picked the wrong car. Come on, guys. I mean, you got enough experience in this series. You just pick the right car. But we've seen that a couple of times already today. Look at that swarm of cars just behind as well, with Lee Siddles leading it all. So who can get the slipstream at the moment? Dave Clements with a very poor start. He's down 13th place from his start, and he's dropping down more places now as he picks up a slowdown.
Yeah, another costly mistake there, and dropping further down the order to keep on board here with Brad Saunders working his way through the curves. The car getting over to quite nice, so he's not losing too much. The hardest part here is trying not to over brake and drive those cars through that early portion of the corner, maintain the mid corner and get on that power as quick as possible. And he's been able to do that quite nicely, so see whether he can look for a move here. May not happen at this point as they work their way down to the end of the Mulsanne here, but certainly a good gaggle of cars just in front, and see him move up the inside there, and that's one of the ERT cars trying to work their way through as well.
Now Scott Gamble just trying to get past Lecty, but Lecty did a good job there, staying around the outside. Oh, is there a slowdown now for Gamble? He cut the Mustang corner. That's one of the worst slowdowns as well that you can get around this circuit. It's not too bad later on in the race when the iRacing system was comparing it to a lap where you got the slipstream, but in these early stages it is painful. Top 2 pulling away at the moment. Silvassi. What a drive this is for Silvassi. Must have put in a lot of practice for this track, because this is by far the best I've ever seen him drive for Trick Esports, and the Porsche as well, looking very strong around this circuit despite all the cars looking pretty good around this track. But of course the fixed setup does change that slightly. 7/10 of a second behind at the moment, just close enough for a waft of draft at the moment, and that's certainly keeping him in contention with James Scott.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good showing for Martin. He's been working hard to try and get this car back up to the pointy end. I've seen him in a couple of other championships, and very, very good competitor to race against, and very clean in the way he drives. So there's a really good turn of form for him, finding himself up in second. His teammate Ross Rizzo, not that far behind, only a second behind. So Trick Esports 2 and 3 at the moment. and they're recovering Healy now down in 6th spot. So they got doing all right at the moment. The Ford for Rizzo, though, being a little bit further down, is going to hurt, trying to close that gap up and maybe get back into the fight at this point.
Jordan Cullis dropping down the order with Nicholson and Thomas. They've all come together. That was a battle in the back end of the top 10. And what an awful race it is for Joshua Thomas. This is how it happened. Cullis on the inside into 1. And the Porsche's on the inside into 2. Oh, he's just spun it, Cullis, and then he's going to spin into these 2 drivers. And, well, it's just a soft mistake. We'll see if the stewards feel like there needs to be any action on that one. But Cullis massively outbraking himself there, despite really being on the racing line.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure there'll be a few exchanges of words from the teammates there getting involved in that, and you can just see that on board, just how that unfolded. It's a bit of an easy one to do. You do brake extremely late trying to maintain that mid-corner speed. A little unfortunate there, the Ford not quite able to pull it up in time. A little further back up the field, a good scrap at the moment as well. Janssen involved in it. We've got Janssen, Ryder, Trent Thomas in there as well. So good little forecast scrap working their way down towards the second chicane now.
Flying formation at the moment. We saw some fantastic jets, of course, at the start of the race, and this is very much mimicking them at the moment. However, it's not really the fastest way to negotiate this 8-mile circuit. Is it 8 miles? Might be more than that. No, I think it is 8 miles. As the Ford looks to the inside, making it 3 wide right now. That's Trent Thomas just trying to nip down the inside. Oh, it's a bit of bump drafting as well with the BMW just behind. He's going to come out on top here. I doubt anyone's going to have a chance against the Ford. Just scything down the inside there. Nice move. Oh, and off the circuit. And Trent Thomas with that ambitious move. It hasn't worked out for him. Must have just got a little bit of a tap as we went into that corner. We've got another off as well, further back, with Matt Allison and Nick Sanfilippo getting into one another. So it's all happening down at Mulsanne corner. And this is extremely close racing. The drivers are so evenly matched. Remember, fixed setup series. So all these cars are evenly matched. All the drivers are evenly matched. I think that's why we're seeing quite so many incidents at the moment. At the front of this now quartet is Kane Ryder. Once again, he moves past, Adam Gardner is now leading with Kane Ryder just behind.
Yeah, and I think it was Gardner that we saw right up behind Trent Thomas, moving the Ford out on the run into Moss. And we'll get another look at the replay here where we had the bump draft of everyone moving through. But for Thomas, he didn't really leave Gardner a lot of room there, so arguably, sure the stewards to look at that could have been a bit either way. But for Gardner there, it looked like he just got in the back with missing the brake mark, just a fraction there. And for Thomas, off he goes. Here's another look. You can just see Thomas actually probably the one to blame there. Closed the door very, very hard and not a lot of room at all given. And unfortunately, does fire that Ford off backwards at the end of the Mulsanne straight.
He was the one who made it 3 wide, so I don't think he can complain too much that they kind of all had to occupy the same piece of tarmac. But take a screenshot of that. A few different teams being represented. And there was just nowhere to go. And of course, we've seen it in Formula 1 in the past as well, just that loss of aero when you're right behind the driver ahead. Trent Thomas now coming back into the pits. So Joshua Thomas and Trent Thomas both having a pretty miserable time of this race today. James Scott, by the way, 1.4 seconds out in the lead now. He's been able to break the draft to Martin Sorvasti. Sorvasti will keep him honest, I imagine, to the end of this race. But James Scott really showing what he can do once again. Will be a pit stop in this race, and we could see some safety cars as well. I think that's what Sorvasti will be hoping for a little bit later on, maybe just to mix up this one.
Yeah, definitely. If he can utilise that and maybe come back later on, that will definitely help. But I don't know whether we'll be fortunate enough to see the safety car out there tonight. I mean, the field is reasonably well spread out at this point. It's only when we get that little pack battling starting to occur again that there is a bit of a chance that it could come to a bit of a head. But unless, I guess, the guys get get punted pretty hard, or we see 4 or 5 cars involved at this point. I think race control more than likely going to let this one go, but I'd say more than likely we'll probably see the use of the virtual safety car, given how long this track is. Be very, very cautious trying to unload a safety car and get that out to slow the whole field down, and it keeps it nice and fair for everyone out there moving on.
That is a very good point. Safety car period around this place would probably take at least 15 minutes. So if I do about 6-minute lap times, that would not be fun. Janssen, he is past Ryder. No sign of an end to this battle. Martin Crisp as well, doing very well in 11th place. Is the Canadian? There he is. Although he's got I think Martin Crisp is Canadian. He's only raced in the Canadian e-racing series. But he's got the Aussie flag there. To be fair, he's about 0.8 of a second behind these couple of drivers. Catching up to them is Tom Hagen, who lost a few places on the first lap, but he's back up into 12th position now. Matt Morris also just going past Aaron Specchio a bit further back. They're now side by side, just coming out of Mulsanne corner. There they are, and it looks as though Specchio has actually got the better exit, so he should be able to move back ahead in his Porsche.
Yeah, and from some of the testing I've seen some of the guys out there doing over the course of the week, we've noticed within the fixed setups for this race, the Ferrari seems a little bit tail happy with the reduction in the wing angle on it. So some of these guys might be struggling a bit, hence why we're not seeing so many Ferraris out in front. Porsche, similar to what we saw last week out, is very good on keeping the car planted underneath it, and really showing its worth out there at the moment. But for Thomas, recovering after that earlier issue, he's doing quite nicely at this point in time.
I wonder if we could get the track temperature just up on screen. I believe it's quite cool at the moment for the drivers. They can see 22 degrees track temperature as Morris getting overtaken there from Wood. He came out of absolutely nowhere there. Wood. It was a little bit slow for the couple of corners previous, as Morris almost gets contact with Clean Boosting, which would have sent him into the wall. Clean Boosting currently up 10 places just behind as well. Lockhart Brownlee. Penalty or no penalty? Lockhart Brownlee is 19 places up from his start, and we might see a double overtake here going into the Ford chicanes, and whether he wants to come into the pits or not, did have to come into the pits there, and also Healy as well, opting in into the lane. Because one mandatory pit stop in this series. The drivers are limited to 60 or have their fuel sets at, I believe, 50% for the start of the race, and then they are allowed to put in a maximum of 65% of fuel of the full tank for the second stint. Hence why we saw a few drivers coming in on lap 4, because that is the earliest lap you can pit and get to the end of the race on. The drivers won't be changing tyres, so just top up of fuel, and then we'll be back on their way.
Yeah, and we just see too the penalty there for Gardner up on screen as well, so he will be back in serving that penalty there. Watch everyone else go through. We're starting to see some really good trains starting to form up. Everyone's managed to stretch themselves out to quite a good position at the moment. Scott, really impressive to see himself continuing to extend that lead, 2.5 seconds at the moment over Silvassi, who in turn put just over 4 seconds on his teammate Rizzo as well. So these two seem to have found some really good form at the moment. For Scott, first time in the championship that since we've been covering it, Sam, and I mean he's picked up exactly the same place he left off within the AOSC V8 community. Come across here, jumped into the GT, and lightning quick in these cars as well.
Yeah, of course, the AOSC's Super Series will be coming back to you as well on the iRacing Esports Network and on Apex Racing TV in just under 3 weeks, I believe. Really looking forward to that one, the most competitive championships on all of iRacing. That is an exceptional field of drivers, and James Scott would be looking to defend his championship, and by his caliber of driving from last season, I think he is the massive favourite at the moment, but no doubt there'll be some good challengers for that title this season. McHugh was overtaken by Edwards. He's coming back now at Edwards. Any chance of an overtake into Indianapolis? Not on this occasion. I think he's quite happy at the moment to stay behind is Brady McHugh for Riot Sim Racing, team who we have seen make good progress in the past couple of seasons. Kane Ryder's just got past Steve Janssen, and that was down at Indianapolis. There we are. Ryder up into 8th now. They have swapped positions quite a bit. These three still, though, just clear of Tom Huggan, who's failing to make much of an impression at the moment. By the way, the lap times that these drivers are setting really competitive. 50s and 51s, even James got in the 49s at the moment. So really quick times. It is a cool circuit. These are almost perfect conditions. However, that is still some pretty mighty lap times. Here was the overtake from Ryder.
Yeah, it was a good move there. You see him down through Indianapolis. Big, bold move to go around the outside there because you come in very hot. You got to try and get the car all the way over to the right-hand side before you throw it in to the corner there, and able to just keep him behind as they run down through Arnage as well. So really nice work there for Ryder in the BMW. It was looking very good in earlier practice we saw today, and continuing that really good form on at the moment.
Janssen and Crisp, I believe, coming into the pits. Along with a couple of other Fords as well. Mitchell Bell's just messing up the first Ford chicane and then really struggling on the second one as well. Ironically, Anderson in the Ford catches up to the back of him. But these guys can't afford to battle too much. Sure, you want track position on your rival. However, with the range of pit stops we're seeing at the moment, you're not just racing the drivers who you're on track with, you're also racing the drivers who you have already pitted. And surprisingly, Bales letting him go very easily, and from about a 1 second ahead, he's now fallen half a second behind. Anderson needs a strong in-lap here. We should have this lap and maybe one more. They might be able to come in on lap 7 and really push the fuel. That extra couple of litres should be at their absolute peak when it comes to the end of the stint, when the fuel is mega low. Not too much of a drop off in such a short race as this, so they'll want to extend this stint as long as possible. Clean boost sync past Wood. That was very simple with the slipstream from Specchio just ahead, and Specchio looking a bit like a sitting duck right now. That Porsche with the air damage it's got does not look particularly fast down the Mulsanne.
No, it does seem to be struggling just a little bit here, and for the guys behind, I mean, being the lead car in any form of pack, especially at Indianapolis nonetheless, is probably the worst place you could be on the circuit here, as we see Klimbasink lining up for another run. He tucks the Fusion car out of the draft, closed it up quite nicely here. He'll have a really solid run down into the second chicane. He's also bringing Paul Wood along for the run as well. Paul just thinks a little bit better of it, doesn't stick the nose up there. But just behind as well, we saw Wood. Actually, who was that? Was that Bales?
Brownlee.
Brownlee, sorry, with a little bit of a lock-up in the back there as well. So he's actually fallen off the back of this train now, but should be able to recover. It doesn't look like he's lost too much gap there at the moment. And if he comes in the next lap, we'll toot it as well.
That was a bit of a late block there from Clean Boost Sync, because he could see how Specchio was coming for him. And there goes Specchio around the outside of Mulsanne. It's going to be a poor exit though, and it will almost certainly be Wood who has the best run of either of these guys. However, this is part of the circuit where going 3 wide is extremely risky. One of the more narrow parts of the circuit compared to the Mulsanne, and there's absolutely nowhere he can go. Clean Boost Sync should have this one quite sorted, and I guess Specchio just needs to try to make sure he stays ahead of Wood as well. Here comes Clean Boost Sync, tight line, and he does move past, and it's Specchio who loses out to Wood as well. And another look-up as well for Brownlee, as Specchio makes a mistake into the right-hander. These guys are using themselves a lots of time with all this batting, and if anyone was around them who recently picked up, be licking their lips right now.
Yeah, definitely. I just saw it too as Klimbasink was getting out of Indianapolis there. Got a big wheel and lucky just to keep that car off the dirt as well. So all these guys pushing as hard as they can. Just a few little mistakes starting to creep into their runs at the moment. Lithuate and Edwards, Lithuate and Happert's 6th and 7th at the moment. We'll see whether these two come in, and they do, to knock over their stops. It looks like all our front runners at this point in time coming in the lane, get this one and only stop out of the way, and then get back underway. But right now we've got the top 7 down in the lane. Scott, Silvassi, Rizzo, McHugh, Edwards, Lithuate, Hupperts, Ryder, Crisp. Everyone's in, so this is about the right time to get that stop knocked over.
Thought that some drivers might be able to reach lap 7, however, everyone coming in on lap 6, so that really does seem to be the limit of the fuel. So everyone just peels off into their pit boxes. And we'll soon be able to come out again. But you can see how many drivers wanted to push it as far as possible. About 22 drivers I'm seeing currently in the pits. James Scott already away. He's now 5 seconds ahead of Silvassi. 8 seconds longer in the pit stop actually, but still got a healthy advantage. That was side by side with Healy with a slightly earlier stop. Remember, Healy, pole sitter, got a slowdown. However, on the opening lap, fell back to 7th or 8th, but he's back up into 4th now. That's a good strategy for him, and he's ahead of Craig Edwards and Brady McHugh. I believe he's jumped both of them at the stops.
Yeah, it's a good work there for him to come in early, get a car top, and back underway. And hopefully now we should start to see the pace of Michael Healy, which we saw first time out last week, and got on the podium for a fantastic 3rd position. And thought he was in a good stead early on with that opening pole, but working his way back up nicely now. And then actually looking at the top 3, or 3 of our top 4, sorry, I should say, all Trick Esports. So the guys there have really found something in these cars, and a lot of laps to get themselves up there. But keep an eye on Edwards, just about trying to get that move completed.
Warren Pickering with a big slide through some of the first sector corners there, and he's dropped to 22nd place. One of the tyres just cooled down for him slightly and struggled when he came out of the pits. He's going to try to make up one straight away. This is what happened to Trent Thomas then on his comeback drive. Joshua Thomas, apologies. As this was how Pickering had that spin then. Just goes down the inside. Oh, we had it sorted. Oh, and then a little bit of netcode. This is an Aussie server with pretty much all Aussie drivers. However, just a little bit of netcode there, and that just sent Pickering almost into the wall.
I think he probably ran the rear quarter along that wall. Lucky it didn't grab and fire it in a bit harder there, so he was able to get away with that rather well there, working his way back.
Oh, we got another one.
And then Specchio behind, missing his marker, going in the rear there.
Oh, Specchio, he was running as high as, he was running at about 12th place, wasn't he, before? But far away from that now. That's a 32nd place. Must have had a slow pit stop as well, I think. But this was what happened to Hooper. A couple of separate incidents here. So Hooper gets overtaken by Thomas and then just loses it on the rear. And then this was Specchio then coming up to the back of Pickering, I believe, who locked himself up. And then Specchio getting caught up by the by the speed difference and spinning off himself.
Yeah, and Specchio will need to be careful there with that re-entry. That was a little bit unsafe there with the cars coming back in around him. I think it was Bradley Saunders having to just miss that car of Specchio as he returned back to the circuit there. So see what race control maybe have to say on that one as well. So check back in Aidan Lechty for DPR Racing, having not a bad run. He's got Scott Gamble right behind him, and Neil Pearson just a couple of cars back as well. So DPR cars probably a little further down than what we've traditionally seen them over the course of the seasons, but still fighting with it. Maybe in for a top 10 at the end of this one.
There has some decent races, I think, in AOSC near the end of the last season's AOSC championship. the DPR seem to be one of the more improving teams. So yeah, it is a little bit surprising that maybe they haven't got as many cars in the top 20. But Lexi, as long as he stays this distance back on Pickering, Pickering's lost it. Will he come back onto the racing line? No, he swaps ends, and that was probably the best thing that could have happened. Pickering drops way down, battling with Thomas for 17th place earlier on this lap, and he's going to be outside the top 35, I believe now. So big shame for him. Certainly going to be a right top round, and will hopefully be one of his drop rounds for a driver who we often see up in the top 10. This is another driver we often see in the top 10. Heck, we often see him in the on the top step of the podium. Timothy Beeben, he's down in 32nd place, is Beeben, down 12 places from his start. Pitted very early on, did Beeben. Only on lap 4 of this race. I think he maybe even had to serve a slowdown or something. Serve a penalty, perhaps. Hence why he's so far down. But he should be passed down Specchio pretty soon here.
Yeah, and Specchio still struggling after that earlier damage there. The car very, very slow. He works his way off the circuit just away. Must be clearing a slowdown at that point. So safe spot to get that out of the way. Tom Huggins, turning our attention to him, not yet able to get that move done. On track at the moment, he's going to have to be careful. He's got one of the Fusion Sim cars in the hands of Scott Stevens right behind. And Scott pretty quick around this circuit as well, and probably a little further down than where he ideally would want to be at this point of the race. So we'll see whether he's able to knock over a move in the next couple of corners as well, start working his way back up.
Ross Rizzo in 3rd place at the moment is Rizzo. In fact, it's been a bit unpredictable. We saw Healy ahead of these guys when they came out of the pits for their respective pit stops. We saw, I think it was Healy, then Edwards, then McHugh, then Rizzo. But so Rizzo ahead of these drivers. Now, in fact, maybe Rizzo was in 3rd place, I think, after the pit stops anyway. But certainly Edwards has got past Healy. And they're now a trio. And this was a momentary overtake for Edwards, how he got past Rizzo. However, Rizzo soon managed to recover that place, so still remains in 3rd position at the moment. McHugh now 5 seconds behind is McHugh. Just wonder if he maybe got a couple of slowdowns, because you can see he was right with Edwards and Healy earlier on, but now he's fallen into the clutches of Luthwaite and Huppert, which are two of the most experienced and most accomplished drivers in this series, and they're right on his tail. So a couple of nice 3-car battles going on at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. As we tune back in, we've got McHugh, Lithwaite, and Huppert all having a go. They're working their way up through the Porsche curves. At the moment, it's a brave man to try and get a move done on the entry through here. Very quick circuit of the track, and we've seen on past Le Mans races some very big incidents. Probably the worst that springs to mind is the big one for the Audi. I think it might have been 2011, where it completely disintegrated itself through there, and that was practice at that point in time, so that was a pretty big one. But for these guys at the moment, McHugh, you don't see a lot of him doing a very solid job just to hold these guys off. You think he will potentially concede this one on the run into the curves.
Ouch. McHugh into the wall, and what can you say about that one? Luthwaite into the wall as well. And that was a weird contact, but you can kind of see it a little bit far away, and overtaking to the forward chicanes. Luthwaite here, I mean, it's just not wide enough, is it? It's wide cars, narrow circuit.
And I think in that instance, for Luthwaite, he wasn't far enough up to get that move completed. Yeah, there might have been a little bit of a word from the spotter to call that you've got a car alongside, but for the guys there, you lose visibility through the mirrors, and you've got to turn in at some point. So, yeah, a little unfortunate to see both those two find their way into the wall. For Huppert, though, has now promoted himself up into the 6th position as a result of that, though.
Means that Crisp is top of the amateur drivers. Martin Crisp, a driver who we don't usually see in the top 20. Look at that. 8th place at the moment. Nice job for Chris. Just needs to make sure he keeps it onto circuit because Nathan Anderson in 17th is the next highest amateur driver, and there's about 15 seconds between the pair. There, in fact, I think maybe even about 15 seconds between the pair of them at the moment. So that should be all sorted for the amateur lead. Of course, the elite lead going to James Scott and Scott Stevens and Tom Huggan currently fighting for the pro division at the moment. Top of the amateur drivers is Lockhart Brownlee in 16th place, so I think his penalty was an end of line, so he had to start this race from last in Lockhart Brownlee. However, wouldn't know that he did that because he's up in 16th place, and also, of course, it's a car that he's not familiar with driving. He would have been practicing in another car this entire week, but the Fusion Sim Racing driver pops into the Porsche accidentally, and it's done quite well for him.
Yeah, he's been doing very, very nicely in this car at the moment. I mean, the pace pretty consistent, a little bit slower, obviously, than what we're seeing from the guys at the very front, but still respectable times nonetheless. The best 351.74 last time by 352.67, so only marginally slower than his best there. But yeah, good clean run for him at the moment, which is what he needs to start getting himself familiar with the car and working his way up into the battles.
This is a battle. 10 minutes to go, and you kind of want to start getting track position. It turns less into your pace in comparison to the rest of the order, and more into just overtaking that bloke ahead of you. Chris Pellet and Matt Allison currently so in fact it's even Jordan. It is Matt Allison currently leader of this pack. Pellet didn't have anywhere to go, and just like that, you lose 4 places. Costly mistake there for Pulse Racing team, and well, he should have time to make his way back up, but you cannot afford little mistakes like that. Side by side ahead of him with Pearson defending from Hooper, and Pellet will kind of hope that these couple of drivers make a bit of contact into Indianapolis. Side by side even further ahead as well, and this is a pretty good view for Pellet to see this all going on. Looks like Hooper's lost out on that one to Pearson. And Phoeben and Sanders going side by side. They are still side by side going into the right-hander. Phoeben with the inside at the moment. Contact and round. And look at that. 4 cars all getting stuck on the inside of the circuit. Awful run. And profiting from that, I think, was Jesse Butler, who walks up to these guys and says, "Thank you very much. I'll take those 4 places."
Yeah, as we were riding on board there with the Ford, you could just see a little bit of contact as he almost got that avoided and just ran out of luck there. Here's a look at the replay. Up the inside, you can see Phoeben. Looks like he just catches the rear quarter there. And then from there, as those guys rotate, nowhere for them to go. And unfortunately, 3 cars involved and 1 facing the wrong direction. So hopefully you got that car rotated around and back underway. But yeah, very awkward position for those guys to be in on the exit of Vanage.
Dan Lobb, after I think he spun on the first or second lap, back up into 15th place. Apologies, I think some of these flags might be wrong, so apologies, guys, because Dan Lobb is South African, and yet he's also coming up as Australian. So apologies to any drivers whose flags may not be totally correct. We'll try to address that for the next round. But he is in 15th place, is Dan Lobb, and he's closing up to Joshua Thomas, another driver who had a spin, remember, at the Dunlop chicane early on in the race. And also, I think Clean Boost Sync has just got past Paul Wood up into 12th place, and Martin Crisp, no, sorry, Scott Stevens, I think, may have just overtaken Tom Huggan, I believe, and it's all changing around actually because Craig Edwards has just dropped down to 5th place. He's been overtaken by Michael Healy. It's difficult to know where to put your eyes. You can click on the live timing link, by the way, in the description below, provided by SDK Gaming. Thanks to them for providing our overlay as well. You can customize it as we do for our various series. As long as you know a bit of CSS, you can make it look however you want. Really good for streaming and broadcasting, and It's also pretty useful as well when you're racing as well. So certainly do check that out at sdkgaming.co.uk and do click on the live timing link below, and then you can see all the battles which are going on at the moment.
Yeah, there's 3 cars at the front, slowly working their way through. Further back, Allison and is that Tim Phoeben sorting out some issues. We saw those guys, or Phoeben definitely involved in a little issue only a lap ago. Now gets that car down the inside of Matt Allison. This should be a pretty sealed move as they work their way down to close out the straight here at the Mulsanne. Phoeben's going to have to close that car over to the racing lines. He just sneaks it over the front, where we saw Trent Thomas earlier in the race actually get a little bit of a helping hand from one of the Mark 1 cars and escorted off there. These time, no such issues for either of these guys to get away quite nicely and now start the long run down towards Indianapolis.
Allison back past then Phoeben. How much will Phoeben fight this one? He lets it go. Not sure if this is best for their pace at the moment. They're also side by side with Hooper and Butler behind. Hooper gets him past Butler right there. To be fair to Allison, he may as well try to keep being behind because they're not going to catch up to anyone else ahead. They've got Blake Delaney 4 seconds ahead, and Phoeben's quick. Doubt he'll be able to make up that amount of gap because the race leader crossed the line quite recently, and that means that we've got 2 more laps to go, including this one more to go after this lap. 4-minute lap time. It's a long one. It's this track, so haven't got much longer to go in today's event. You can see on your timing tower, James Scott crushing the order at the moment. 9 seconds clear of Silvassi. He pushed him really high. You can see how well Silvassi has driven. The fact that he's 8 seconds clear of Michael Healy at the moment. But he's still no match for the Logitech G Altus Esports driver. Healy up into 3rd place, then past Rizzo. However, Rizzo still in the draft. 0.6 of a second behind, so he should be able to come back onto the back of Healy by the end of the Mulsanne straight point down into Mulsanne corner. He should be within passing range. As long as he stays within that range, it could be a tight battle between these guys all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, these 3 I don't think are going to now separate themselves as they work their way towards the finish of this race here for Rizzo. Does he have the legs still in that Ford, which traditionally is a very slippery car? Seems like it might not be able to get there at the moment comparative to Healy, but hopefully he has got enough in it still to keep Craig Edwards behind, and that will be a very strong showing for those 3 cars. They work their way through the chicane. The Ford just a little bit awkward as it rides that curve there. Doesn't seem to like it as much. The BMW soaking him up, actually gaining a little bit of an advantage there for Edwards as well. So could be closing in. I reckon Indianapolis for Edwards might be one of the best opportunities he's going to have on this lap. Short of that, we might see a repeat next time by down to this very same corner again.
This is tricky for Edwards because he wants to get past Rizzo so he can challenge Healy. However, a couple of corners battling with Healy, and that could break the draft to a couple of corners battling with Rizzo, and that could break the draft to Healy. So he's got to be very careful with the moves that he makes here. I think if anything, it's probably best for him just to wait for 2 ahead of him to go side by side, and then try to maybe get the pair of them if they get a poor exit when battling one another. They are right locked together again. Half a second separating the 3 of them, with just over 1 lap to go of this Le Mans circuit. Hopefully everyone who's watching along has had a fun 24 hours. My team are out of the race, but hi-ho. No, hopefully you are having a good time of it. I've enjoyed this year's 24 hours, certainly one of the best events of the season. And of course you can watch that on the iRacing Esports Network. I believe the YouTube stream went down a little while ago. However, hopefully it's back up, or you can watch on Twitch the final couple of hours of that race. certainly do recommend it once this race is over. And of course, we go through the race results and the driver interviews as well. So certainly do stay tuned for all of that. As James Scott moves on to the white flag.
Yeah, it's been a very dominant display from James Scott here. Wouldn't be surprised if this has been a little bit of help, not only just running the laps to keep himself fresh and get back up to speed to close out the 24-hour Le Mans race, but nonetheless, come in here very, very dominant, hasn't put a foot wrong, and extremely consistent pace-wise so far. I mean, a 3:48 was his best lap. Was the only driver so far tonight to dip below a 49. So certainly got some very consistent pace in that car, and showing exactly what the Altus boys can do when they get into these championships. Leads in a supercar, leads in a GT car. Very, very good effort for him. And he's just continued to extend that gap over Martin Silvassi in second place.
Edwards passed Healy. So Rizzo still in third. Edwards, though, in that fourth place. And now this gives him the opportunity. In fact, so Healy losing 2 places then. So Healy lost out to both Rizzo and Edwards, going down into the Dunlop chicane, I believe. Now, will Healy try to come back straight away? I think probably best just to stay behind for now. Oh, that's smart driving from Rizzo. He's giving Healy the draft at the moment. He basically wants to cause as much awkwardness for these couple of drivers. But in fact, Healy comfortably makes that one. And now, Rizzo has got a very quick Porsche on the back of him. Great to see these 3 manufacturers being represented. Right now, the driver just ahead of them in the BMW is a lap down, by the way. That is Bradley Sanders. No, it's not Bradley Sanders. Bradley McHugh, perhaps. Just in front of them, I believe. As here comes Healy on the inside into this chicane. Now, do you want to be behind coming out of this chicane? Maybe that was what the Ford driver was thinking, because he's got to absolutely nail this exit now. Edwards probably in the least favoured position right now, third in line. And will Rizzo go for the move into Mulsanne corner? Or will he dare to leave it 1 corner later and go for Indianapolis, which will surely be the last opportunity at an overtake? The Ford stays behind. He's certainly not close enough for a move here. Just got to be careful of Edwards. Line it up and then get a good exit. However, it's not fantastic. Trying to break the draft now as he realises that this is the important part of the race now. Edwards right in the draft range at the moment. Can he be able to make this one too wide? Healy is being left vulnerable here. Edwards with a terrific run, and he should be able to move up into 4th place. But here comes Rizzo with a fantastic draft on the back of Healy. Goes to the outside. Could even see 3 wide into Indianapolis. And they just managed to escape it. And there's no changes between the 3 of them. Good driving there from Healy to give a little bit of a toe to Edwards, which just compromised Rizzo ever so slightly. And unless Rizzo can make a big move into the Porsche curves, that should be the podium positions sorted for this race. And it seems like James Scott had this race win sorted from the moment that he took the race lead in the early stages. Pretty much turn 1, he took the race lead from second on the grid, and ever since then it has been very comfortable for the Akita AOSC Supercars champion. As he comes through the Ford chicanes for the final time, James Scott in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship approaches the line and he wins race 2 of the season in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship. Silvassi will finish in a superb 2nd place. Healy will finish in 3rd, and Edwards with a late move on Rizzo. I think going through the Porsche curves, and it will be Edwards who finishes in 4th place. You can see how much time Rizzo lost right at the end. Could have been a slowdown for Rizzo, or maybe could have been a bit of contact between the 2 of them. Martin Crisp will finish top of the amateur drivers. The best drive I've seen Martin Crisp produce ever in this championship. There he is in 9th. Stevens and Huggan just side by side further back, but Stevens will hold on to that positions and will be top of the pro drivers as well. Will Scott Stevens, congrats to him. Top of the amateur drivers will be Lockhart Brownlee, who despite dropping down over 10 places in these closing stages will finish in 30th place. So congrats to Lockhart there. But a really good Le Mans race. It's up there with kind of Monza and Daytona, isn't it, in terms of the slipstream battle? It's such an important parts of it. And that produced some brilliant packs all the way down the order. There seems to be a move every couple of seconds.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you're pretty well right there. I mean, in comparison to Le Mans, probably Spa, as far as the run down the Camel Straight, it gives you a fantastic draft and overtake opportunities. Daytona, as we see a couple of guys just closing it out. Matt Allison trying to get a move done here, doesn't quite promote himself further up. And actually, we've still got some good battles coming home to finish this out. Lithuate trying to go around the outside. We know that doesn't work. We saw that earlier on today. And unfortunately for him, does need to slot back in down into the 23rd position there as Aaron Spector just comes in front of him there. But no, I mean, this circuit, similar to Daytona, does present some fantastic opportunities and passing moves for these guys. But yeah, completely different to what we've seen from a lot of the other circuits. And the minute you lose that draft, though, you are in no man's land. Very, very tough to get yourself back up there and finish it. As we see Dave Clement pushing Adam Gardner across the line. A little bit of help for the teammates there to get both of those cars over and finished.
Yeah, nice teamwork from those guys. Bradley Sanders didn't win the rookie drivers. It turned out to be John Poose who won. Bradley Sanders with some issues, and will only finish in 38th place in the end. Apparently, it was Brownlee who won the rookies. Apologies. Where is I don't know. I must be. Oh yeah, Lockhart Brownlee. That's right. I must be colorblind or something like that. Lockhart Brownlee was top of the rookies, but John Poose was second out of the rookies. There you go. That is everyone across the line, and so we can go through your race results for this round 2 of the championship. Round 2 of 13, I believe, with this leap season we have in iRacing. 13 weeks of action, and it was James Scott who won out 10 seconds clear of Silvati. Michael Healy rounding out the podium. There was Craig Edwards, Ross Rizzo, Nathan Hupperts. A bit quiet race for Hupperts there, but good job to him, finishing in 6th. There's Steve Janssen, Kane Ryder, Martin Crisp top of the amateur drivers, Scott Stevens top of the pro drivers. There was Tom Huggan, Joshua Thomas, Julian Clean Busink, Paul Wood, Darren Lobb, Nathan Anderson, Mitchell Bales, Adrian Lichty, Blake Delaney, Timothy Phoeben, Jesse Butler, Chris Pellet, Robert Hooper, Lee Siddles, Matt Allison, Jordan Cullis, Trent Thomas, Simon Nicholson, Nick Sanfilippo, Lockhart Brownlee, Aaron Specchio, Aidan Luthwaite, Justin Schwerk, Jason Dixon, Adam Gardner, Dave Clements, John Poose, Bradley Sanders, Brady McHugh, Stephen Williamson, Neil Pearson, Matt Morris, Scott Gamble, and Warren Pickering in 44th place. Well done to all the drivers who took part in today's event, and we should have a chat with a couple of drivers as well as to how their race went, and a driver who we got quite used to having a chat with, to be honest, from last season of AOSC. It's James Scott, who's back in the comms box with us. Congratulations, James. First question, I mean, what inspired you to take part in today's race?
Hey guys. I'm not sure, to be honest. I didn't have anything better to do, so I thought I'd give it a shot and see what happens.
So you're not taking part in the 24 then?
Well, we got sort of hurt by iRacing's systems when they went down last night. We were unable to register the car, so yeah. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here. I'd probably be doing that, but seeing as though we couldn't get into that, might as well use the practice for something around here.
So how was it jumping into this this Porsche fixed setup, I mean, was it particularly difficult to adjust compared to the setup that you guys have developed?
Yeah, there was a fair few differences in the setup, but I did a couple of laps in practice and got used to it fairly quickly, luckily. And was able to just keep out of the slowdowns, which I think is a key around here. To a good result, I think Michael unfortunately got a slowdown on lap 1 at the end of the Mulsanne straight, and it really hurt him, put him a long way back, and it was a long night for him.
Got to ask you about AOSC coming up next season. I mean, have you guys put much practice in so far, and how does the team look going into that new season?
I haven't done too much practice yet. I sort of been having a little bit of a break from the V8 just to get my mind freshened up for another long season. The team, it's looking stronger than ever, really. It's a great bunch of guys with a lot of fast drivers, so I'm sure there'll be no problems there.
Awesome. And you reckon you might be back for one of these Aussie mixed and fixed races in the future?
Definitely. I think this is a great series. I've seen it around for a while now. Just through one reason or another, I haven't been able to participate, but there was no better opportunity than to have a crack tonight, and was lucky to come away with the win.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that race win, James. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Obviously all the guys at Logitech G Ultra Esports. Tough weekend for us, not being able to race the Le Mans 24-hour. And obviously all our great sponsors, Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Motum Simulations, Cube Controls, and Own 3D.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, James. And yeah, I hope to see you back on the channel very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
James Scott there for Logitech G Altus Esports, your race winner for tonight. Daniel, who are we going to talk with next?
Well, up next, we'll bring up second position, Martin Silvassi for the Trick Esports team. So let's get him in here. Here we are. Martin Silvassi, second place tonight, mate. Congratulations. Fantastic run for yourself and the Trick Esport team out there. How was your race from your point of view?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Long time no speak. But yeah, no, it's been a definitely a good night tonight for the whole team. I think Trent probably had a bit of misfortune, but failing that, I think we've done pretty good. I mean, we've spent an awful lot of time at Le Mans over the last month and a half, so probably kind of glad to see the back of this track for a while now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one that, especially around this time of the year with the 24-hour on, does get a pretty solid workout. Did you guys have a car in the 24 at all?
Yeah, no, we certainly did. We sort of fluked the broadcast top split somehow, I think, because everyone crashed and we didn't. So we ended up in there. But yeah, we got net coded into the fence with about 13 hours to go. So that was day done.
Not the way you want to finish out a solid run there. Turning back to this race, looked like the Porsche very, very consistent out there tonight. A little bit quicker than what we saw from the likes of Rizzo and the Ford and the BMWs, which are a little bit of a surprise. Did you find? I mean, we've seen you run the Porsche now for a couple of seasons with an AMF. Do you find it's kind of got into a much better point setup wise to allow you to compete a bit more with the guys up the front?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think last season's car, look, I don't know whether it just didn't suit me, but or whether or not I think everyone pretty much struggled in it from memory. I don't think there was too many Porsches up near the top, but whatever changes have been made to all the cars, they seem to be pretty close now. You know, we've been driving Le Mans for, like I said, about a month and a half in the Porsche. So coming here in the AMF Porsche, it was, you know, there wasn't too much adjusting that needed to be done.
Fantastic, mate. Well, look, it's great to see you up on the podium again. I know it's been a long time since you and I have spoken in the race environment, and no, look, great to see you coming on harder and stronger, mate. And hopefully we'll see you up point end a little bit more. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to helping the team out get come where they are?
Yeah, no worries. Well, first of all, I just want to thank Pro Sim Gear, good sponsors, come on board. Trig Custom Fabrications and KRD. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Martin. Well, again, congratulations, mate. Second tonight, and we'll hopefully look forward to catching up with you in the coming weeks, if not next week, when we go off to Imola.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much. Thanks for the broadcast, mate.
Martin Silvassi there, your second place driver for Chick Esports. We're going to have one more interview with Michael Healy, who started on pole position. However, Michael, we're going to get the negative of the race out of the way nice and quick. The slowdown on lap 1. Take us through it.
Oh yeah, it's just one of those Le Mans things, you know. I think anyone who's picked up a slowdown on the first lap of this track knows how painful it is.
Made the race afterwards though, quite a lot of fun. What was the thinking behind the pit stop? I believe he came in on lap 5. It seemed to work quite well. I think he jumped a couple of drivers.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd just catch up to the reasonable pace cars ahead of me and sit there and save as much fuel as I can and just pit as early as possible, and hopefully there's clear track when I come out, and it seemed to work.
And then afterwards, you were embroiled in a tight battle with Rizzo and Edwards. You seemed to lose those 2 places, I think, on the final lap, but you came back well strong. I mean, were you holding back at all so that you were behind going onto the Mulsanne straight? Were you thinking what the best pace was to be, or do you think just track position was always important?
Well, track position is always really important, but I knew I had a teammate in the battle and I wanted him to be part of the mix as well. So I just played it safe, you know, and just waited for the last couple of laps to make a move. And I just went off the track on the last lap, like you say, and then it changed everything, which made the last lap more than it needed.
Still a really good defensive drive towards the end. Can we expect to see you in next week's round of the championship?
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely show up for most of the series, or as much of it as I can. It's a good time slot at night and on Sunday nights, and it seems to be a real nice league. So
awesome. And also, how is your 24 hours going on? We've spoken to a couple of guys who aren't particularly happy with their 24 hours at the moment. Can you can you give some more positive news on how yours is going?
Yeah, well, it's a bit negative at the moment because we did end up in the wall from an LMP car, but I think everyone's had a bad experience with this Le Mans with the server issues, and we were actually planning to be in a lower split but we ended up getting in top split because of the server issues, so it changed our whole.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're tired. It's just no point getting in the way of the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll see you back next week, Michael, and congratulations on your P3. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to?
Yeah, big shout out to Night Rider Designs, Pro Sim Gear, and Trick Sim Sports. All the guys there are just fantastic. We put in a lot of effort this week for Le Mans, and it really.
Nice one. Thanks for chatting with us, Michael, and see you next week.
Thank you.
So Michael Healy there for Trick Esports, finishing in 3rd position. So that is it for this round of the championship. We head to a very different circuit next week, Daniel. From the mega long straights of Le Mans, we go to almost the opposite, Imola. A very classic circuit once again. However, be a totally different requirements of the car around that track. Much more difficult to overtake as well. One of the most important qualifyings of the season. However, it is one of my favourite circuits to drive, certainly, and usually racing as well. We saw it in the AOSC Supercar Series last season. Usually the racing is pretty good as well.
Yeah, Imola's a fantastic circuit to get around. Doesn't matter whether it's what car you drive, whether it's a supercar, a tin top GT car, open wheel as a prototype. It provides a whole host of unique challenges to get the car around. I think going back to a slightly more classic shorter format that we're used to with those types of cars around there. The BMW is definitely going to be strong again and able to utilize the curbs, which it seems to, we saw tonight, it soaked up very, very nicely. The Porsche, I think, might come into its own again. Good traction out of a few of the slow zones, which will be really nice to see. But yeah, the guys are going to have to be careful. There's some very heavy braking zones, a couple of tricky little chicanes that they're going to have to negotiate through. And just like we saw tonight, we're not going to, with the quality of the field, the packs are going to be very tightly bunched together. I don't think we're going to have as much of a spread as what we've seen tonight. Everyone will be pretty well on top of each other throughout the whole 45-minute event. But yeah, the racing will definitely be fast and furious.
Going to be really looking forward to see that round 3 of the championship. Just looking at the other rounds, we've also got Spa, Suzuka, Daytona, Watkins, then Nordschleife. Looking forward to that one. Barcelona, Road America, Monza, Sebring, and Road Atlanta. So lots of kind of low downforce circuits in all of that. So Imola, one of the tightest circuits we'll head to all season long. You can catch all the action from that round of the championship either on the iRacing Esports Network or on Apex Racing TV. Certainly subscribe to both, particularly Apex Racing TV, because we're broadcasting lots of different championships at the moment. But also the Esports Network is superb as well, and you can catch the last how long have we got? 2 hours to go? Yeah, about 2 hours to go, I believe. In the Le Mans 24 hours, you'll want to see who ends up on the podium in that. You can catch that, I hope, on YouTube. If not, check out on Twitch as well. If you've enjoyed this video, please do leave a like. We would certainly appreciate that. And yes, certainly do subscribe to the Esports Network and Apex Racing TV. But for now, from me, Sam Fitzpatrick, Daniel Leet, and Scott Newton, we are going to say goodbye. And we will see you back at Imola next week.